Good, show everybody your teeth. Come here.
We found love here. Together we will shine, but we know we're running out of
Hey everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my birth story and kind of just a little wrap up about my pregnancy with my first baby, Tucker, who's sitting over here in his little saucer. So I'm going to start with telling you like when I got pregnant and kind of just a few little things about my pregnancy. I don't remember a whole lot about it. It's crazy how fast, like I wish I had, you know, maybe kept a journal or wrote all this stuff down. But so I'm really just going off of memory. As I'm talking, I'm gonna insert pictures just kind of from the day or at the times of whenever things were happening. Since I couldn't share, you know, what I looked like, how big we were, and everything like that. I found out that I was pregnant on January 23rd of 2018. Me and my husband, we had been trying really since October, so it didn't take us too long to get pregnant. Definitely not as long as it takes some people, and for that we felt very, very blessed. But January 23rd, I took a test, and I remember telling my husband like, no, I'm not gonna take a test until I miss my period, which was like on Friday, I think, and this was on a Tuesday, I remember. And I took a test and it was kind of positive. Well, I mean, there's no kind of positive. It was positive. I told him, I can't remember what I said I was gonna go get. I was like, I've gotta go get this. It was like something for dinner. And I went and got first response tests, and I took it then. And like literally that day he asked, he's like, are you gonna take a test? And I said, no, I'm waiting until Friday. So I was like, okay, so he thinks I'm waiting. I will order something online. So I was gonna make it a surprise. Well, that did not happen. I ordered the stuff online, and I quickly realized that there was no way I could keep this secret. And so I ended up telling him we were having spaghetti. And I like asked if he could open the jar of spaghetti, and it was actually Prego, and he didn't. I mean, that didn't dawn on him, which wasn't even on purpose. That's just the brand I buy. And but the pregnancy test was next to it, and yeah, so that's how I told him. And it was fun. He took like 3 steps back and was like, no, really? That was fast. That was like the only things he said. And I remember he did not sleep at all that night. I think he stayed up all night, and he still had work the next day, but we were super excited. So, hi, bless you. Bless you. So, yeah, so after that, we had our first ultrasound at 8 weeks, and then we decided to do the genetic testing. And that was just because we wanted to find out the gender of the baby. That had nothing really to do with, we didn't have any reason to do the testing. We just wanted to find out the gender. We were kind of naive and thought, oh, I mean, we'll find out that everything's fine. There's no problem, no harm there, right? I know, yeah. Sorry, I had to turn it off. So at 10 weeks, they did a blood draw, and we were told that we would find out, you know, if everything was how everything was in 7 to 10 days. And I think that I had the blood drawn on like a Thursday or a Friday, and we didn't hear anything back, you know, a week later. And so I ended up calling, and they were like, oh yeah, you're on the list, but you know, we'll give you a call on Monday. So that kind of sucked. I mean, we were just like, oh, I'm sure everything's fine. They just were busy, you know, they couldn't give us a call. So on Monday when they called, it was like 8 o'clock. I don't even know if I had gotten out of bed yet. And she said that my doctor wanted to speak with us. And was wondering like if we could come in, I think the next day is what it was, or like 2 days from that. And so I just said, yes, we'll be there. And I took down the time, and then I called my husband, and I started crying, you know, just because I felt like, okay, obviously something's not right. I don't think that's how that phone call was supposed to go. And he was like, well, why didn't you ask? And I mean, honestly, I think whenever you're at least for me, this is just the type of person I am. Whenever someone's talking to me like that, or when I just kind of take it all in and I just go from there. And so he was like, just call back and ask if, you know, how everything is, if everything's okay, like, should I be worried? So I talked to the same nurse, and she said, you know, I totally understand that that's a really long time to wait. So, so why don't you guys come in today? We have an opening. We went in and we talked to our doctor, and he told us that we had a 39% chance of Tucker having Down syndrome. And honestly, it was kind of a relief for me, because I was worried that it was going to be something way more serious, where, and not to say Down syndrome's not serious, but I don't think to us it was the end of the world. We just wanted to make sure that, you know, our little boy was healthy, and I think that anybody with Down syndrome is still a healthy human being. They function differently, and the way that their mind works is different, and that didn't bother me at all. I mean, I never felt worried about that. I did a lot of research, you know, after finding that out. I did a lot of research about, you know, children with Down syndrome, babies with Down syndrome, and how you can help them and what they can benefit from and things like that, just because I wanted to be, you know, the best mom in the world. And we also found out that we were having a boy. So the doctor went to go get his Doppler, and he came back and went to find Tucker's heartbeat, and he couldn't find it. So I was about 12 weeks along then. So I think it shouldn't have been difficult, you know, for a trained professional. So they rushed us down to get a sonogram, which my husband, he didn't realize that it was a big deal that they didn't find the heartbeat. And so they went down to do a sonogram, and obviously everything turned out okay, but that was probably like the worst day of our pregnancy journey and everything. And for some reason, it was like so I was almost in my second trimester then. That's whenever I started getting really sick. I was probably really sick for 3 weeks, which isn't that bad. I maybe got sick a handful of times, but I was just nauseous constantly. After that, not a whole lot went on. Then it was summertime, and I was done with school I'm in college, and so I was done with school for a little bit. My husband went on a hunting trip in Idaho. I got to spend that week with like my sister and my mom and my best friend. And then in August, Tucker was due September 30th. So in August, we went on a little vacation to his dad's in Oklahoma City. And I fell when we were there. They have a lease where it has like a little cabin and a fence around it. And I was leaning up against the fence, and I fell back, which was pretty scary. I mean, it wasn't, obviously nothing terrible happened, but I was 30 weeks at the time, so that was kind of scary. But yeah, then we were like waiting for Tucker to come all September, and he chose to come on October 2nd. That wraps up everything that really happened in the pregnancy. I can't really think of anything else other than we were labeled high risk then, with him having a 39% chance of having Down syndrome, and we decided not to do an amniocentesis to find out for sure. So so it was a high-risk pregnancy, and I had a sonogram at the in the last, I think it was like 6 weeks. Every week we had a sonogram, which was awesome, but it was exhausting at the same time, because when we got to like week 39 and week 40, and it was like, the sonogram lady, she's like, really? Like, I could have swore you were gonna have him. And we didn't, obviously. So that kind of got like, oh, can we please just have this baby now? But yeah, so that's about it for the pregnancy. For our birth story, we were induced. My due date was on a Sunday, so we went and saw the doctor the next day on that Monday. Had a sonogram to check and make sure everything was okay. And when we got up to see my doctor, I think I was like 2 centimeters dilated and 50% effaced. So because we were high risk, he asked if we wanted to be induced, which I was a little hesitant, but at the same time, when you're 40 weeks pregnant, I'm sure a lot of you moms can relate, or if you've been pregnant before, you can relate to the fact that when you're 40 weeks pregnant, you're pretty like, let's just do the thing. So we said absolutely, we would love to be induced. And this was October 1st. So he said, let me see if I can get y'all in tonight or tomorrow. And when he said tomorrow, I was like, oh my God. Luckily we got in that night. And we went in at about 7. So our appointment was early in the morning, if I remember right. So I think we had lunch with my mom. My mom met us at that appointment. So she was there for the 40 weeks. And we went and had lunch with her. And oh, I wanted marble slab, and I don't know if y'all have marble slab anywhere. I'll have to look online and see how many places have marble slabs, but or like Cold Stone Creamery, or it's an ice cream place, and it was so good. I haven't actually had one since I was pregnant. And yeah, I think then we went and relaxed at my husband's aunt's house because we had Tucker in Amarillo, and we actually live out of town, out of Amarillo. So we went and hung out at his aunt's and had dinner with his grandparents before we went. And yeah, so we got there at probably like 30 minutes early, which was okay, I think, with everybody. And they inserted Cervidil, which I mean, like I said, I really can't remember everything. I do know it was Cervidil. They didn't start me on Pitocin. They were going to start me on Pitocin in the morning. But on Cervidil, my contractions started to pick up. I think at about 4 a.m., I was like pretty done with the contractions. They were about 2 minutes apart. And I asked for an epidural, and they told me that I couldn't get one until the doctor came in, and that he was going to be making rounds at 8. So they asked if I wanted, you know, the meds, and I wish I could remember what it was, but the meds other than the epidural. And I said no. And I think at like 6 a.m. is whenever I was like, fine, okay, I'll take them. And I had that every hour until I got the epidural, which I think was at like 9 in the morning. I'll have to say, I definitely felt loopy, and I felt, you know, not there. And it didn't really take the pain away. I just forgot how much pain I was in because my mind was like, ooh. I definitely felt weird. But so they checked me right before the doctor came in, or maybe a couple hours before the doctor came in. And she was like, oh yeah, you're still at a 3, which is what I was at my appointment the day before. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I think like an hour later, my doctor comes in and he was like, you're not at a 3, you're at a 6, almost 7. And so that's kind of when everything started to move pretty fast. I got my epidural, which might have slowed things down. So they kept coming into my Pitocin. Because they did start that in the morning just to kind of keep my contractions consistent. And yeah, so the epidural was amazing. And I got some sleep because I didn't get much sleep the night before. And then family kind of started to roll in. I got to see my mom, my dad, Bo's family. And what happened next? When I got to a 9, I think that was like around 1:30. But he hadn't dropped any. Like, he was still pretty high up there. So they had me sit straight up, and I probably sat like that for an hour and a half until it was time to push. And so I think it was like 3 o'clock when the nurse came in and said that it was time to start pushing, or practice pushing, I guess. And so my doctor came in and said you know, it was time to push or start pushing, and that he would be back. And I'll never forget like the look on my husband's face, like, wait, you're gonna leave and we're starting to push? It was really funny, which I didn't know that's how it worked either. But my doctor left, and we pushed with the nurse for like 10 minutes, I think, or 10-15 minutes. And then that's kind of when everything started going really fast. They called in the NICU team since we were high risk. They wanted a NICU team in there. My doctor got in there. He's getting dressed. It was fast. Everything was crazy. What are you smiling at? Hi. Yes, we'll turn it on in a second, okay? He has a little toy that he wants to light up, but it plays music. So, where was I? Oh yeah, so 10-15 minutes after pushing, Tucker was here, and at 3:36, he was 7 pounds, 8 ounces, 20 inches long, and absolutely perfect. So the part, I mean, everything was great. Everything happened really fast and it was really smooth. My nurse was great. My doctor was great. Everything was great. My husband was great. My epidural was wearing off whenever I was getting stitched up down there, so that kind of sucked. But what probably sucked the most was because he had the increased chance of having Down syndrome. The NICU team was in there, and instead of, you know, having your baby laid on your chest, they just handed him off to the NICU team. And I just had to watch from afar for an hour for them to check everything, check his eyes, check his toes, I mean, they were checking everything, which I'm grateful for, because, you know, they obviously cared to make sure that everything was good and that he was okay, but at the same time, I just wanted to hold my baby. But after an hour, the NICU nurse, or the NICU doctor, she said that everything looked good. She told us that one toe or 1 foot looks like it has sandal gap, and that his nipples were a little too far apart for her liking. So they did send in the testing, and we heard back. Oh, yes, I know. They did send in the testing, and we heard back a week later that everything was perfect and that Tucker had no chromosome abnormalities, which at that point we kind of had forgot about it, like, just because he was here and he was perfect and he was healthy. But it was nice to hear that everything came back and everything was good. So yeah, that was a day. That was a really good day. My sister ended up coming, my best friend came, Bo's brothers came, and it was really nice. He let out like one little tiny scream, and then he was laying over there, and so I kept asking my husband, like, is he okay? Is he okay? Because he like just screamed once, and then every once in a while you just hear, wah. It was really cute. He doesn't do that anymore. He full on screams now, but it was really sweet. And it was probably the best day of my life so far, and then every day after it is just better and better. But yeah, so that's our birth story, and that's kind of our pregnancy story. But I really hope that you enjoyed hearing our story. I wish I could have shared it with you at the time, but hopefully next time with our next kid. You got some food on your shirt. We'll have to change that. We're gonna go to a softball game. Oh, you pooped. Oh, you pooped, didn't you? Well, that's my cue to change a diaper. I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we really hope that you stick around. Hit the subscribe button. Tucker poopy pants. Poopy pants. He's a poopy pants. Poopy pants.
I'm all within 2